Every human being is searching for one thing: to love and to be loved. Not fame, not fortune, not applause, just connection that feels real. But here's the thing: most people spend their whole lives chasing it in the wrong direction. They trade authenticity for approval. They perform instead of live. They wear smiles that hide exhaustion, chasing hearts that were never theirs to begin with. Look, I've seen people climb mountains of achievement only to find loneliness waiting at the top. I've seen others lose everything and finally discover peace in their own company. It's not success that heals you. It's being seen without needing to impress. I know this hurts because I've been there. That moment when you realize half the people who loved you only loved what you gave them. But here's the truth: real love doesn't demand you shrink to fit someone else's comfort. It expands you. It frees you. And when you finally stop earning love, that's when you start feeling it. Every human being carries a silent hunger. It's not for money, not for recognition, not for the applause that fades when the lights go out. It's deeper than desire, older than ambition. It's the hunger to love and to be loved, not for what you do, but for who you are when the world isn't watching. Look, every decision you've made, every risk you've taken, every time you've chased approval, it all circles back to that single pulse inside the chest: see me, know me, stay with me. From the moment you take your first breath, you are wired to connect. But somewhere along the way, the world teaches you that love is not a birthright, it's a prize. They make you believe you've got to earn it. Be good enough. Be successful enough. Be interesting enough. And so you start performing. You build a version of yourself that fits the script others wrote for you. And here's the unpolished truth: most people die still performing. They never feel real love because they never show their real self. They're trapped in a theater with no audience, clapping for their own disguise. I've been there. I've worn that mask, smiled through exhaustion, hoping someone would see behind it. But love built on pretending is like water poured into a closed fist. It slips through no matter how tight you hold it. See, the world celebrates performance. You get applause for the image, not the soul. You get promotions for the role, not the truth. But love, real love, doesn't care about your performance. It's not impressed by your highlight reel. It's moved by your honesty. Here's the thing: people don't fall in love with perfection. They fall in love with presence, with the way you make them feel safe enough to be imperfect too. And the moment you stop trying to prove you're worthy of love, you become magnetic, because authenticity is the most irresistible energy on earth. We're all born with this compass inside, pointing toward connection. But when life hurts you, when betrayal, abandonment, or failure hit, that compass starts to crack. You start doubting your worth. You start believing maybe you're too much or not enough. And so you pull back. You protect yourself with walls so high even genuine love can't climb them. But here's the paradox: you build those walls to feel safe, and yet those same walls keep you lonely. You push people away because you're afraid to lose them. You hide your truth because you fear rejection. And in that hiding, you reject yourself first. Real talk. There's a moment in every person's life when they have to decide, am I going to keep chasing love that disappears the moment I stop performing, or am I finally going to stand still and let love find me as I am? And standing still, that takes courage. Because when the applause fades and the masks fall off, what's left is raw. It's you, unfiltered. And for a while, it feels lonely, painfully lonely. But that's not the absence of love. That's the detox from counterfeit love. The hunger to love and be loved doesn't go away with success. You can have 1,000 admirers and still feel unseen. Because love isn't about numbers, it's about knowing. It's about that one person or that one moment where you feel safe enough to stop pretending. And sometimes that person is you. Let me say that again. Sometimes the one you've been searching for is the one staring back in the mirror. You've been waiting for someone to tell you you're enough. But the truth is, you always were. You were enough before the achievements, before the heartbreak, before the applause. Look, if you strip away all the noise, what remains is the essence of being human, the need to give and receive love. That's what keeps us alive when everything else collapses. You can lose wealth and rebuild it. You can lose status and regain it. But lose the belief that you are worthy of love, and the soul begins to starve. That's why so many people walk around successful, but empty. Their hearts malnourished from years of conditional affection. They've learned how to perform, not how to connect. They've mastered achievement, not intimacy. And yet, late at night, when it's quiet, that hunger still whispers. It says, there's more than this. It says, you were made to feel, not just function. I once met a man who had everything the world could offer: fame, wealth, power. But when I looked in his eyes, I saw emptiness. He told me, they love my image, not me. And that hit me hard, because it's the same story repeated in different faces. People craving connection in a world addicted to image. We scroll through lives instead of touching hearts. We collect followers but lose friends. We chase attention but starve for affection. And the saddest part, we've mistaken being noticed for being loved. But love, real love, doesn't need a stage. It doesn't demand performance. It meets you in the quiet, in the ordinary, in the moments where you are fully human. Brother, let this sink in. The universal hunger is not a weakness. It's proof of your humanity. It's the thread that connects every soul on earth. The strong feel it. The broken feel it. The successful hide it. But it's there, pulsing under every ambition, echoing beneath every silence. So what do you do with that hunger? You stop pretending it doesn't exist. You stop numbing it with distractions. You start honoring it. You start feeding it with truth, not illusion. Because love isn't something you chase. It's something you uncover. It's buried under years of conditioning, shame, and fear. You dig through that rubble and you'll find it quiet, steady, waiting. And here's the miracle: the moment you start loving from within, the hunger doesn't disappear. It transforms. It stops aching and starts radiating. You begin to attract people who speak your truth, not your performance. You begin to build connections that last beyond convenience. And you realize love was never about possession. It was about presence. So, if you're listening right now and your heart feels heavy, empty, or unseen, remember this: the hunger you feel isn't a curse. It's a call to return to yourself, to stop auditioning for affection, to stop earning your own existence. Because the real journey isn't about finding someone who loves you. It's about remembering that you were born from love, and that's where you belong. And once you feel that, really feel it, you stop chasing love. You start becoming it. From the moment you learn to walk, The world starts teaching you how to earn what should have been yours all along. Love. You're rewarded when you smile, punished when you cry, praised when you obey, ignored when you speak truth. And little by little, that innocent heart, once open and fearless, starts negotiating for affection. Look, this isn't your fault, it's the system. The silent education of survival. You learn early that approval keeps you safe. You learn that being too loud, too emotional, too honest comes with consequences, so you shrink. You soften your truth to make others comfortable. You start playing a role in a play you never auditioned for. And every time someone praises you for that performance, it reinforces the lie that love must be earned through performance, perfection, and peacekeeping. You become addicted to applause because somewhere deep down, you believe attention equals affection. But brother, they're not the same. Attention feeds the ego. Affection feeds the soul. And here's the thing, most people are living off ego crumbs, starving for soul food. They measure their worth by how many people approve of them. They think silence means failure and validation means love. But the truth, validation is a leash. It pulls you toward their expectations and away from your essence. Real talk. If you were raised being loved conditionally, you learn to associate love with performance. Be good and we'll be proud of you. Make us happy and we'll stay. Don't upset anyone. Don't speak too much truth. Don't show too much pain. So you grew up polishing the mask instead of healing the wound. And it worked for a while. You became dependable, admired, maybe even successful. But inside, you were exhausted. You can't breathe when you're living inside someone else's approval. It's like inhaling smoke and calling it air. And I know, stepping out of that pattern feels dangerous because your nervous system still believes love is conditional. You're wired to please, to make peace at the cost of your own, to chase the same kind of affection that once kept you safe, even if it's killing you now. But here's the raw truth. Survival patterns don't build soulful lives. What once protected you will eventually imprison you, and the cage is lined with compliments. Let me paint a picture. You're standing on stage, the crowd cheering. You've done everything right, said the right things, smiled at the right time. But when the curtain falls, you go home feeling hollow, because deep down you know they applauded the version of you that performed, not the one that prayed to be seen. And it's easy to confuse the two, because the performance gets results. You get love, attention, and belonging, but it's borrowed love, temporary attention, conditional belonging. You keep performing because you're afraid that if you ever stop, the world will stop loving you too. Look, I get it. You think love disappears when you disappoint people, but real love, the kind that transforms you, doesn't vanish when you're imperfect. It deepens. It holds space. It stays. Society doesn't celebrate that kind of love. It sells you performance love. It teaches you to curate your life like a highlight reel, to broadcast your worth through filters and metrics. We're told to brand ourselves before we even know ourselves. And in that noise, authenticity becomes rebellion. But here's the paradox. You can't be loved for who you truly are until you stop pretending to be what you think people want. And that's terrifying, because letting go of performance means risking rejection. It means saying, "This is me," and standing still long enough to see who stays. Some won't, and that's the price of truth. But those who remain, they'll love you with both hands open, There's a quiet kind of power in no longer chasing conditional love. You start to realize how many of your choices were never really yours. The career path you took to impress your family, the friendships you maintained out of obligation, the silence you kept to avoid conflict. Every piece of yourself you sacrificed for acceptance. And when you finally see it, it hurts. Because you realize you've been playing by rules you never agreed to. And here's the healing moment. When you decide to stop playing, that's when your life begins to shift. Not dramatically at first, but quietly. You start to say no to what drains you. You start to rest without guilt. You start to tell the truth, even when your voice shakes. And little by little, the people who loved your performance fall away. But in that space, new souls appear. Souls that see you, not the show. And that kind of love, that's oxygen. Let me give you a hard truth. Conditional love is not love. It's management. It's people managing their comfort through your behavior. You please them, they stay. You change, they leave. And that's not love. That's control wrapped in politeness. But unconditional love, that's different. It's not blind acceptance of everything. It's clarity with compassion. It says, I see your flaws, I see your chaos, and I still choose connection. And when you meet that kind of love, you don't have to perform anymore. You breathe differently. You sleep deeper. You start living from truth instead of fear. Here's the uncomfortable part. To attract that kind of love, you have to stop settling for less. You have to stop negotiating your value. You have to let go of people who only know how to love the version of you that serves them. And yes, it will be lonely at first. But that loneliness isn't punishment. It's purification. It's your soul adjusting to freedom. And brother, freedom feels strange when you've been chained by approval your whole life. You'll second guess it. You'll reach back for the old cage because it's familiar. But don't. Stay in the discomfort, because on the other side of that discomfort is peace. And once you taste peace, performance loses its flavor. I've learned something through years of watching people rise and fall. The ones who make it to peace are not the ones who performed the best. They're the ones who finally stopped pretending. The ones who decided, if being myself costs me people, then so be it. At least I'll still have me. That's when you begin to live honestly. That's when love begins to feel real again. So look, if you feel like you've been performing your whole life, trying to earn the affection of people who only love your mask, it's time to stop. Because you were never meant to audition for acceptance. You were meant to embody it. Tear off the costume. Walk off the stage. Step into the light of your own honesty. It's going to shake some things. Some people will go silent. Some doors will close. But the ones that remain, they'll lead you home. The conditioning trap is powerful, but not permanent. The world may have trained you to earn love, but your soul remembers how to receive it. It remembers the language of authenticity, the rhythm of truth, the music of being enough. And when you start living from that place, that's when love returns. Not as a transaction, but as truth. Not as a prize you win, but as the natural state of who you've always been. So if you're listening right now, tired of pretending, tired of pleasing, take a breath. You don't need to earn another ounce of love. You just need to remember you already are it. There comes a moment, a quiet, brutal moment, when the mask you've been wearing starts to weigh more than your own skin. You can feel it pressing against your soul. every smile that wasn't real, every nod you gave just to keep the peace, every word you spoke because you thought that's what they wanted to hear, it all piles up like invisible stones in your chest. And one morning you wake up tired, not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. It's the fatigue of pretending. You see, pretending is one of the heaviest burdens a human being can carry, because it doesn't just exhaust your body, it corrodes your spirit. You start losing sight of who you were before the world told you who to be. When you live for approval, you rent your soul out to the opinions of strangers. You hand over your peace to people who can't even find their own. You trade your truth for applause and call it success. But here's the truth. Approval is a drug. And like every drug, the high never lasts. You'll get your little dose. A compliment, a like, a nod of acceptance. And for a moment, you'll feel alive. But soon after, you'll crash, empty again, waiting for the next fix. That's how people get stuck in the endless cycle of pretending, smiling when they're broken, agreeing when their heart screams, no, acting like they're fine when they're crumbling inside. And they'll tell you, it's just part of being social, part of the game. No, that's not a game. That's slow suicide of the soul. The tragedy of this world is not that people are fake. It's that they forget who they are while trying to be what others expect. Look around you. Everyone's wearing armor. Corporate armor, social armor, family armor. They've spent years building masks so polished, so convincing, that even they can't remember what's underneath. But you can't heal behind a mask. You can't grow while performing. You can't feel peace when every gesture is an act, every smile a script. When you live for approval, you stop living for truth. You start measuring your worth through reflections instead of reality, through how others see you, not who you actually are. And eventually, the applause fades, the crowd moves on, and you're left alone in the silence, asking yourself, who am I without their attention? That silence, that moment of confrontation, is the doorway to freedom. Because here's the secret, authenticity doesn't demand perfection. It demands courage. The courage to stand in the raw light of your truth and say, this is me. You won't win everyone's approval when you live like that, but you'll gain something far greater, peace. And peace lasts longer than applause. You've got to understand something, my friend. Pretending is a form of fear. It's the fear of rejection, of judgment, of being misunderstood. It's the fear that your truth isn't good enough to be loved. But if you have to fake yourself to be loved, that's not love. That's performance. And no performance wins an Oscar in the theater of the soul. You weren't created to fit in someone else's script. You were built to write your own. Every time you pretend, you dim the light God placed inside you. And the world doesn't need another copy. It needs your original fire. You can't inspire anyone while hiding. You can't lead anyone while pretending. Because people don't follow perfection. They follow realness. They follow scars that speak. They follow honesty that cuts through noise. Some of the most magnetic people on this earth aren't the ones with perfect smiles. They're the ones who walk in truth, unshaken, unapologetic. They know that authenticity is the highest form of strength. See, you can lie to the world for a while, but your soul always keeps score, and one day it will come collecting. It'll show up as anxiety, as burnout, as that quiet sadness you can't explain. It's your spirit whispering, Stop pretending. Come home. A coming home to yourself is not a soft process. It's violent in its honesty. It means facing the parts of you you've hidden. It means letting people down who only loved your mask. It means walking away from comfort zones built on fake smiles. But that pain, that shedding, that loneliness is the price of freedom, because every truth demands a sacrifice. The moment you choose authenticity, you will lose things. Maybe people, maybe status, maybe comfort, but you'll gain yourself. And that's the greatest comeback story there is. Think of it like this. When you pretend, you're wearing armor made of lies. It protects you, sure, but it also suffocates you. Every breath becomes harder. Every step feels heavier. The day you decide to take it off, you'll gasp at how light you feel. You'll realize you were never tired of life. You were tired of acting. There's a line I'll never forget. The truth doesn't cost you anything, but a lie will cost you everything. And that's the real fatigue of pretending, not just emotional exhaustion, but the slow erosion of your soul's integrity. You can build a reputation on pretending. You can even build a career, but you can't build peace. And peace, that's the one luxury no money can buy, no fame can fake. So if you're exhausted tonight, if you feel that quiet emptiness, even after everyone applauds you, it's not because you're weak. It's because you've been performing too long. Maybe it's time to stop playing the role and start living the truth. You don't need permission to be real. You don't need validation to be enough. You were enough before anyone noticed you. You were whole before anyone named you. When you finally drop the mask, you'll see. Authenticity doesn't scare the right people away. It filters the wrong ones out. And the ones who remain, they'll see the real you. Unpolished, imperfect, powerful. That's the man the world needs. That's the woman destiny has been waiting for. The one who's done pretending and finally awake. So stop rehearsing your truth for people who can't handle your reality. Stop diluting your fire to keep others comfortable. Stop smiling through pain just to look strong. Because real strength isn't pretending you're fine. It's admitting you're not and still moving forward. That's where transformation begins. That's where the chains break. That's where fatigue ends and freedom starts. And when that day comes, when you breathe again, when you walk in truth again, you'll realize something beautiful. You were never tired of life. You were just tired of pretending to be someone else. Real love is not a cage. It's not ownership, not a chain, not a contract signed under fear. It's a force, wild, sacred, and free. Most people never taste it. They confuse attachment with devotion, control with care, and fear with passion. They call it love when it's really dependency wrapped in affection. But true love doesn't negotiate. It accepts. It doesn't demand that you shrink yourself to fit inside someone's comfort zone. It doesn't clip your wings and then call it protection. No. Real love is freedom disguised as vulnerability. It says, I see you, all of you, and I choose to stay, not because I have to, but because I want to. That's the highest form of connection. When two souls stand before each other without armor, without performance, without fear, and still choose to remain. See, in the modern world, love has become a battlefield of insecurities. We chase validation more than connection. We fear being alone so deeply that we settle for half love, half truth, half freedom, and call it safety. But safety that suffocates the soul isn't safety at all. It's slow imprisonment. Real love doesn't start with romance. It starts with truth. It begins when two people have the courage to look at themselves honestly and say, I don't want to own you, I want to understand you. You can't love what you need to control. You can't love someone you're afraid to lose. Because the moment love becomes about possession, it stops being love and turns into fear wearing perfume. The most dangerous lie this world ever sold was that love is about keeping someone. It's not, it's about liberating them, and in that liberation, discovering your own. When you love someone truly, you give them permission to grow, even if their growth leads them in a direction that doesn't orbit you anymore. You root for their freedom, even when it scares you. Because love that demands captivity was never love. It was ego craving control. There's power in letting people be who they are without trying to edit them into who you wish they'd be. There's beauty in standing beside someone, not over them. You see, real love doesn't whisper, stay so I can feel whole. It declares, I am whole and I choose you anyway. That's the kind of love that builds, not drains, that heals, not hurts, that expands, not restricts. But most people run from that kind of love because it requires nakedness of the soul. It requires you to expose your fears, your wounds, your need to control, and let them dissolve in the light of truth. And that's terrifying for those who've built their identity on masks. Yet when you finally dare to love without a leash, something miraculous happens. You realize love was never meant to imprison you. It was meant to set you free. Love is not about merging into one. It's about standing side by side as two complete beings who choose alignment over dependency. That's maturity. That's sacred partnership. The world teaches us to chase fireworks, the drama, the highs, the chaos. But the truth is, real love feels more like peace than passion. It's not the lightning, it's the sunrise. It doesn't burn fast, it glows steady. It's not a storm that destroys, it's a river that carries. Real love is not loud, it's consistent. It doesn't scream promises, it shows presence. It doesn't hide behind forever, it proves itself in today. And the beautiful paradox is this: the moment you stop chasing love, you start attracting it. Because love flows naturally toward those who are free within themselves. You can't receive unconditional love while you're still bound by conditions. You can't open your heart to someone else if you've locked it to protect yourself. The love you offer is limited by the love you allow. So start with yourself. Forgive the versions of you that begged for love from people who couldn't give it. Release the guilt of holding on too long or loving too hard. You didn't fail. You just learned that real love doesn't live in cages. When you finally love yourself without judgment, you stop demanding perfection from others. You start seeing them as evolving souls, not broken projects. You realize that love isn't about fixing, it's about witnessing. You witness someone's becoming, and you stand beside them with reverence, not ownership. That's what liberation looks like. Two souls walking their paths, occasionally intertwining, always free, always real. Because freedom is the soil in which love blooms. Without it, even the most beautiful connection will wither into resentment. Real love says, I trust you enough to let you be. I value your peace as much as mine. I don't need to cage you to feel secure. That's the love that lasts. That's the love that heals generations. because it teaches by example that control is not care and fear is not devotion. Some people will never understand this level of love because they've only known survival love, the kind born out of fear of abandonment. But once you've tasted real love, pure, unfiltered, liberating, you'll never settle again for anything that asks you to shrink. And if you're lucky enough to meet someone who mirrors that kind of truth, don't chain them. Walk beside them. Grow with them. Let the love breathe, because love that breathes lives. Love that's forced dies. Don't seek the one who completes you. Seek the one who complements your freedom. The one who doesn't calm your storm by silencing it, but by sitting through it. The one who looks at your scars and says, that's where the light came in. That's liberation. That's divine partnership. So, if you want to know whether it's real love, ask yourself one question. Does it make me smaller, or does it make me free? If it shrinks your world, drains your peace, censors your truth, it's not love. It's fear in disguise. But if it awakens you, if it expands you, if it feels like standing in sunlight after years of shadow, that's love. Keep it, nurture it, protect it without possession. And if someday you must let it go with gratitude, not bitterness. Because real love never ends in destruction, it transforms into wisdom. That's the liberation of real love. When you stop clinging, stop controlling, stop fearing, and finally start being, love was never about holding tighter. It was about opening wider, not to capture, but to connect. So let love be what it was always meant to be. The greatest act of freedom ever given to the human heart. You can't pour from an empty cup, and yet most people try every single day. They give, they serve, they bend, they break, and then wonder why the world feels cold when they finally need warmth. Here's the truth. You can't give or receive what you've never given yourself. Self-love isn't vanity, it's survival. It's not about mirrors and mantras. It's about remembering that your worth didn't begin when someone finally noticed you. It began the moment you existed. See, most of us were taught early that love had conditions. Be good and you'll be loved. Succeed and you'll be accepted. Make everyone proud, and maybe, just maybe, you'll finally feel enough. So we start performing. We become characters in someone else's play, smiling when we want to cry, saying yes when everything in us screams no, pretending to be okay just to be loved. But that kind of love is exhausting, because it's not real love. It's approval disguised as affection. And the moment you stop performing, the applause stops too. Real love doesn't demand a costume. It wants your scars, your fears, your contradictions. It wants the you that trembles in the dark and still chooses to show up. And the first person who needs to love that version of you is you. Look, I know it's hard. You've spent years trying to earn what should have been freely given. And when people walked away, you started believing their absence was proof you weren't enough. But their departure didn't define your worth. It revealed their capacity. You are not unlovable because someone couldn't love you properly. You're simply carrying wounds that need gentleness, not judgment. And self-love, real self-love, isn't about selfies or slogans. It's the quiet act of choosing yourself when everything around you says you shouldn't. It's saying, I'm tired of betraying myself just to be accepted. It's walking away from what breaks you, even when it's familiar. Most people think self-love is a destination, that one day you wake up and finally feel confident. No, it's not a finish line. It's a daily practice. It's the small, invisible choices that say, I matter too. Self-love is eating when you're hungry, not when it's convenient. It's resting without guilt. It's forgiving yourself for what you didn't know when you didn't know it. It's looking in the mirror and saying, I'm not perfect, but I'm still worthy. And here's the deeper truth. The love you give to others is filtered through the love you have for yourself. If that filter is dirty with shame, fear, or unworthiness, every relationship will carry that residue. You'll mistake attention for affection, control for care, chaos for chemistry, and then you'll wonder why every connection feels like a battlefield. Because if you don't feel whole, you'll turn love into a rescue mission. You'll try to find someone who can fix what you've refused to face. But love can't fill an internal void. It only amplifies what's already there. If you're empty, it echoes. If you're full, it overflows. So the question isn't, who will love me? The real question is, do I love myself enough to stop chasing what keeps breaking me? Real talk. That's the hardest battle you'll ever fight. Because facing yourself means confronting every lie you believed about who you are. It means forgiving the version of you that begged for love in places built to reject you. It means standing in front of the mirror, eyes swollen from old tears, and whispering, I forgive you. And yes, sometimes it hurts. Sometimes you'll want to run back to distraction, to noise, to people, to anything that numbs the ache. But stay. Stay long enough to see what's behind the ache. The part of you that's been waiting for your own embrace. You've spent so long trying to be lovable that you forgot how to love yourself. But the healing begins the moment you decide you're already enough. Not because of what you've achieved, but because you exist. And existence itself is the proof of worth. Self-love isn't arrogance, it's alignment. It's when your actions finally match the truth that's been whispering in you all along. You are worthy of peace, of joy, of love, without condition. Think of it like this. Every person you meet is holding up a mirror. Some show you your beauty. Some reflect your wounds. Some distort you through their own pain. But the only reflection that truly matters is the one you choose to believe. When you see yourself clearly, you stop begging for reflections from broken mirrors. You stop needing validation from people who can't even see their own worth. You stop chasing love and start radiating it. Because when self-love becomes your foundation, rejection no longer shakes you. It refines you. You stop asking, why didn't they choose me? And start asking, why did I keep choosing less than I deserve? And from that place of wholeness, your love becomes cleaner. You no longer love out of fear, but from fullness. You no longer cling, you connect. You no longer demand, you offer. And love given from fullness always returns multiplied. See, self-love doesn't make you selfish, it makes you sustainable. It allows you to give without losing yourself, to care without collapsing, to serve without silently suffering, because real love, the kind that lasts, flows from a full vessel, and fullness doesn't mean perfection. It means honesty. It means you've stopped hiding from yourself. So if you've been searching for love, start with the person in the mirror, not because no one else matters, but because that's where love learns to live. The mirror isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. And the lesson is simple. Until you see your own light, no one else truly can. Love begins with you. not ends there, but begins there. And when you finally accept that, every relationship becomes a reflection of that inner peace. Because once you fall in love with your own soul, every other love becomes a choice, not a necessity. And that is the mirror within. There's a kind of love that drains you, and a kind of love that fills you. Most people never learn the difference until their heart is cracked open enough to see it. When you love from emptiness, every gesture is a quiet plea. Please see me. You don't give, you trade. You don't connect, you cling. You don't express love, you audition for it. And the tragedy is, you think you're loving deeply, but what you're really doing is begging beautifully. You wrap your wounds in affection, hoping someone will finally make them disappear. But no one can fill a void that was carved by your own neglect. Look, I've been there, loving from hunger, mistaking attention for healing, chemistry for connection, intensity for intimacy, telling myself, if I just love harder, maybe this time it won't hurt. But love born from need always hurts, because it carries the silent expectation that someone else will do the work you refuse to do inside yourself. Real love, the kind that changes the air when you walk in the room, doesn't come from need. It comes from fullness, from knowing who you are, from standing rooted in your own peace, from realizing you were already complete before anyone ever arrived. See, when you love from fullness, you stop chasing validation. You start offering presence. You're no longer trying to prove your worth. You're sharing it. You become the giver, not the seeker. The river, not the well, that's the shift. Love from fullness flows outward. Love from need leaks inward. People can feel the difference. They can sense when your affection is an offering versus a request. They can tell when your words come from confidence or from quiet desperation. And here's the thing, love from fullness doesn't mean you never feel lonely or vulnerable. It means those feelings don't control you anymore. You can acknowledge the H without making someone else responsible for soothing it. Because wholeness isn't the absence of need. It's the presence of peace within it. When you're whole, you can say, I want you, but I don't need you to survive. And that one sentence changes everything. It removes fear. It removes control. It removes manipulation. What's left is freedom, the kind of freedom that allows love to breathe. But when you love from emptiness, fear becomes the architect. You start policing affection, measuring responses, keeping score. You shrink yourself to stay chosen. You overgive to avoid rejection. And every time you do, your spirit whispers, this isn't love, this is survival. The truth is, we all start somewhere near that survival love. We crave completion because we were never taught that we already had it. Our culture feeds us stories about finding our other half as if we were born incomplete. But the healthiest love doesn't come from two halves trying to become whole. It comes from two wholes choosing to build something greater. When both people come full, love becomes overflow. It becomes a dance, not a transaction. You're not drinking from each other. You're pouring into each other. And that's when love feels effortless, not exhausting. But here's the unpolished truth. Fullness takes time. You can't rush it. You have to sit with your loneliness, your insecurities, your hunger, and learn what they're trying to teach you. You have to stop looking for mirrors and start building light within. And sometimes that means being alone longer than you'd like. It means walking through nights where silence feels heavy But those are the nights that forge you. They teach you how to hold yourself. They show you that your own company isn't a punishment. It's preparation. Because the person who can sit in stillness without needing to be rescued becomes unstoppable. That's the one who gives love like oxygen, steady, effortless, life-giving. When you reach that place, your love becomes a gift, not a gamble. You give because you overflow, not because you're starving. You love because you are love, not because you're trying to earn it. And suddenly, relationships shift. You stop chasing people who drain you. You stop romanticizing inconsistency. You stop confusing chaos for passion. You start gravitating toward peace, because peace finally feels like home. And from that place, you begin to attract people who are also full. People who don't need you to complete them, but to walk beside them. Your conversations deepen. Your boundaries strengthen. Your love matures. That's what fullness looks like. Not perfection, but emotional independence. A calm that can love fiercely without losing itself. And when two full hearts meet, love becomes creation, not compensation. It's not about patching wounds. It's about painting futures. It's not about soothing fears. It's about sharing faith. It's not about escaping loneliness. It's about celebrating presence. Most people think love is about what they get, but fullness teaches you love is about what you give, freely, joyfully, without ledger or expectation. It's giving from abundance, not anxiety. And ironically, that's when love returns to you multiplied. Because people trust love that doesn't demand. They relax around presence that isn't performing. They bloom in spaces where they're not being measured. So if you want love that lasts, stop trying to be chosen. Start choosing yourself first. Fill your life with things that light you up. Solitude, learning, creativity, stillness, laughter, purpose. Let that fullness overflow until love is no longer a quest, it's a natural consequence. Remember, emptiness says, please love me so I can feel whole. Fullness says, I already feel whole. Let's grow together. The one comes from fear, the other from faith. And the difference between the two will shape the entire story of your heart. So love yourself until you overflow, then give from that overflow. Let your love become an ecosystem, self-sustaining, ever-growing, beautifully alive. Because when you love from fullness, you stop begging for connection and start creating it. You stop proving your worth and start living it. And that's when love finally feels like what it was always meant to be. Not a rescue mission, not a bargain, but a mirror reflecting the abundance you already are. Love from fullness, not need. Because the love you give from wholeness will be the only love that never leaves you empty. We live in a world that whispers the same poison in 1,000 different tones. You are not enough. It starts early. Before you even know who you are, the world starts selling you what you should become. You're told what to wear, how to speak, who to impress, what to chase and what to fear. And little by little, your truth gets traded for approval. The culture trains you to perform, not to live, to measure your worth by the eyes that watch you, not the heart that carries you. Every billboard screams, be more. Every screen whispers, you're falling behind. And before you know it, you've become a stranger in your own reflection. Look around. We have never been more connected, yet never more lonely. We scroll through endless faces, chasing digital hearts, starving for something real. We post smiles that hide exhaustion, write captions that sound like confessions, and call it connection. but it's performance. This illusion is powerful because it feels like progress. It tricks you into thinking you're building something, when in truth you're being built by something, a machine that feeds on insecurity and calls it ambition. You buy the shoes, the car, the house, the image, not because you need them, but because they promise to silence that voice that keeps whispering, "You're still not enough." And for a moment they do. For a moment the likes roll in, the compliments come, the mirror nods back at you and says, "See, they love you now." But then it fades, the high disappears, and that hollow silence returns louder than before. So you scroll again, you buy again, you chase again. The culture doesn't want your peace, it wants your participation. It survives by keeping you distracted. It needs you hungry, uncertain, competing, because a content human is unprofitable. A peaceful mind doesn't buy what chaos sells, and that's the trap. They teach you to worship an image that doesn't exist. The perfect life, the perfect body, the perfect relationship, while quietly convincing you that you'll never reach it. So you keep trying. You keep molding yourself into something more acceptable, more desirable, more marketable. And every time you do, you lose another layer of your soul. Listen to me. There is a difference between growth and distortion. Growth expands you. Distortion erases you. And what the world calls self-improvement often looks more like self-abandonment. You start editing your laughter to fit the room. You hide your tears because they make people uncomfortable. You call it maturity, but sometimes it's just fear dressed as wisdom. And the saddest part, you forget what real feels like. You forget how to just be. You can't rest because rest feels unproductive. You can't be silent because silence feels empty. You can't love without proving something. And you can't exist without an audience. That's the cost of the illusion. A generation that mistakes attention for affection and followers for friends. But here's the truth. You are not a product. You are not a performance. You are not a brand. You are a soul, vast, breathing, infinite. You were never designed to be consumed. The culture thrives on comparison. It makes you look left and right until you forget to look within. It convinces you that someone else's highlight reel is your measuring stick. But real life is messy. It's quiet mornings, tired eyes, unfiltered laughter. It's the courage to show up even when no one's clapping. See, peace is rebellion now. Authenticity is revolution. Because in a world addicted to performance, being real has become the rarest art form. You want freedom? Stop competing with illusions. Start remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Strip away the noise. Remove the filters. Not just from your photos, but from your life. The truth is simple. You were enough before you ever proved it. You were worthy before anyone validated it. And you were loved before the first hand ever applauded you. But you forgot, because the illusion is loud and the soul whispers softly. And when the noise of the world grows too heavy, you start to believe that silence means emptiness, when really, silence is the birthplace of everything real. Sometimes you've got to step away from the screens. You've got to walk outside, feel the air again, hear your own breath again. You've got to remind yourself that your worth doesn't depend on pixels or opinions. It lives in the quiet dignity of being yourself, unpolished, imperfect, alive. You've got to look that illusion in the face and say, no more. No more chasing shadows. No more confusing popularity with purpose. No more letting strangers decide how valuable my soul is. Because once you wake up, the illusion loses power. You start seeing beauty in simplicity again. You start feeling gratitude instead of envy. You start measuring your days in peace, not praise. And that's when something shifts. You stop craving validation and you start creating value. You stop performing and you start living. You stop pretending to be loved and you start actually loving yourself, your life, your journey. That's real success. Not the applause, not the spotlight, but the quiet knowing that you are enough, even in the dark. The culture will keep trying to pull you back. It will say, don't fall behind. But remember, peace has no finish line. There is no race in stillness. And the only person you were ever meant to compete with is the version of you that forgot how free you already were. So tonight, unplug from the illusion. Step out of the noise, look in the mirror, and instead of asking, what do they think? Ask, what do I feel? Because the moment you choose peace over performance, authenticity over appearance, presence over perfection, you become untouchable. And that's the secret the world doesn't want you to know. A person who no longer needs validation becomes the most powerful kind of human. Free. Every human heart begins as a blank page, waiting for love to write its story. But somewhere along the way, we start believing the lie that someone else must hold the pen. We wait for another soul to complete what was never missing. We decorate our emptiness and call it romance. We turn our longing into a search party, looking everywhere but within. The truth is, most people don't fall in love, they fall into dependency. They don't seek connection, they seek rescue. They don't want to share a life. They want someone to fill the spaces they refuse to face. So they build relationships out of fear instead of fullness, out of loneliness instead of purpose. And then they wonder why it hurts so much when those walls collapse. Because when love becomes your medicine, loss becomes your sickness. Look around, you'll see it everywhere. People trying to buy affection with attention. People trying to hold on by begging, pleasing, performing. People mistaking obsession for passion and silence for rejection. But the heart knows it was never meant to live on borrowed energy. You cannot fill an inner void with outer noise. No matter how much someone loves you, if you don't love yourself, you'll always feel half-fed. Their affection will pass through you like sunlight through glass. Warm for a moment, gone the next. And that's what the mirage is. It looks like salvation, but it's only reflection. You chase it across the desert of your own doubt. And every time you reach for it, it fades a little more. You keep telling yourself, the next one will heal me, the next one will understand, the next one will finally see me. But healing doesn't come from being seen. It comes from seeing yourself clearly and still choosing to stay. See, love isn't a replacement for wholeness. It's the celebration of it. Two complete souls meeting, not to complete each other, but to magnify what's already there. Anything less becomes addiction in disguise. When you treat your heart like a vacancy sign, you attract people who only check in when they need shelter. They'll stay until they feel better, then leave when the weather changes. And every time they go, you'll blame yourself, not realizing they were never meant to live there permanently. Love isn't supposed to fill you, it's supposed to overflow from you. You don't find it by chasing, you find it by becoming, by building a life so full, so aligned, so alive that when someone walks in, they don't complete you, they join you. But to reach that kind of love, You must face the silence you keep avoiding. You must sit with your own company until it stops feeling like punishment. You must learn to give yourself the very thing you beg others for: respect, patience, tenderness, forgiveness. That's hard work, because it means confronting the places where you abandoned yourself. It means asking, why did I believe I was unlovable without someone else? It means forgiving yourself for every time you tried to buy love by shrinking, pleasing, or pretending. Real love begins the moment you stop auditioning for it, the moment you stop needing to be chosen to feel worthy. Because once you accept yourself, you no longer beg for what already belongs to you. Think about it. You can sit beside someone who says, I love you, and still feel completely unseen. Why? Because love without understanding is just echo. It repeats your shape but never touches your substance. So instead of asking, who will love me? Ask, who am I becoming when I love myself right? That question changes everything. Because when you love yourself, you raise the frequency of what you attract. You stop chasing drama because peace finally feels like home. You stop falling for potential because you've learned to honor reality. You stop mistaking pain for passion because you've tasted calm and it tastes like truth. The mirage fades when you realize no one can water the roots of your soul but you. Another person can stand beside your garden, but if you don't tend it, even the sunlight can't make it bloom. Sometimes the universe will send you people who seem perfect just to show you how easily you abandon yourself. Sometimes heartbreak isn't punishment, it's instruction. It teaches you where you placed your worth and what needs reclaiming. And when you finally reclaim it, when you stop looking for home in other people, you discover something powerful. Love starts finding you, not because you're searching, but because you've become magnetic. See, true love recognizes itself. When two whole hearts meet, they don't drain each other, they expand together. There's no desperation, no chasing, no keeping score. Just two souls saying, I was good before you came, and I'll still be whole if you leave. But while you're here, let's grow. That's the kind of love that builds empires. That's the kind of love that heals generations. It's not fireworks. It's foundation. It's not noise. It's knowing. And maybe that's what this whole journey is about. Learning that love isn't something you find. It's something you become. The more you embody it, the more it surrounds you. The more you give it, the less you need to chase it. So tonight, turn off the searchlight. Walk away from the mirage. Stand in the middle of your own heart and breathe. You're not missing anything. You're not broken. You're just remembering what was always true. You were never incomplete. The love you've been seeking has been waiting for you to stop running. And when you finally do, when you stand still long enough to feel your own heartbeat, you'll realize something miraculous. The thing you were chasing was never out there. It was always you. Love isn't earned or found. It's not a trophy for the worthy or a prize for the perfect. It's a current, steady, ancient, alive, flowing through everything that exists. But most people never feel it because they've spent their whole lives building dams of doubt, fear, and comparison. We don't lose love, we block it. We don't run out of it, we resist it. It's like standing in a river, dying of thirst, because you're too afraid to open your hands. Here's the truth. You were born in love, built by love, sustained by love. Every breath you take is proof of that current moving through you. But somewhere between childhood and survival, the current got buried. You started believing that love must be earned, that peace must be proven, that worth must be witnessed by someone else before you can claim it. Look, that's how the dam begins. With one doubt at a time, you hear someone say you're too much or not enough, and you start believing them. You compare your reflection to a filtered world, and suddenly the mirror becomes your enemy. You hold your breath to fit into rooms that were never designed for your fullness, and every time you do, the river slows. The flow dims. The world around you dries a little more, and when that happens, love starts to feel like a mystery. Something rare, distant, fragile. But love is never fragile, people are. Love doesn't vanish, it waits. Like water behind a dam, it builds quiet pressure, whispering, "I'm still here when you're ready to flow again." See, the problem isn't the river, it's the walls we build around it. Walls made of old heartbreak, unhealed shame, and borrowed definitions. You can't feel the current if you keep guarding against it. You can't receive peace if you keep clinging to control. That's why comparison is poison. You measure your worth against someone else's moment and forget that rivers don't compete. They coexist. The ocean never asks the mountain why it's tall. The sunrise never questions the moon about timing. Everything moves at its own pace, in its own rhythm, because it trusts the current that carries it. And that's what you've got to remember. Your river knows where it's going. You don't have to force it, chase it, or engineer it. You only have to stop blocking it. Stop damming it with doubt. Stop questioning your own flow because someone else's looks faster. I know, it's hard. We're raised in a world that worships noise and names it progress. We're told to run harder, post louder, climb higher, but almost never told to be still and listen. Because if you ever did, you'd hear that quiet truth beneath the chaos. You already are what you've been trying to become. Real talk, sometimes you won't feel it. You'll wake up empty, surrounded by noise, and wonder if love still lives inside you. It does. It's just resting beneath the layers of doing, achieving, proving. When you get still enough to peel those layers back, you'll feel it again, that gentle hum of being. And when you do, you'll realize something powerful. You never needed anyone to complete you, only to remind you. The right people don't fill your cup. They drink from it and pour it back. They don't make you whole, they meet you whole. And in that exchange, both become more. That's the rhythm of the river. Give, receive, release, repeat. No clinging, no control, no fear of loss. Because water that doesn't move becomes poison, and love that doesn't flow becomes prison. So let go. Let the old versions of you drift downstream, the ones built on fear, approval, and apology. You don't owe anyone your containment. You were never meant to be a reservoir. You were made to move. And when you finally do, when you let that river flow, you'll start noticing miracles in motion. Synchrony, ease, connection without effort. You'll attract people who meet you at your frequency, not your facade. You'll find peace not because everything's perfect, but because you stopped resisting what is. Remember, love doesn't enter through force, it enters through openness. The more you try to grip it, the faster it slips. But the moment you surrender, it returns in abundance. Because love is never lost. It only waits for permission to flow. And brother, that permission has to come from you. From the part of you that finally says, I'm done performing. I'm done pretending. I'm ready to live from truth, not tension. I know it feels risky to open your heart after years of guarding it, to let yourself be seen without armor. But that's where freedom begins, not behind the wall, but beyond it. Because love is not safety, it's surrender. Not a promise that you'll never hurt again, but the courage to keep your heart soft in a world that taught you to harden it. Every river faces resistance, rocks, branches, debris, but none of it stops the flow, it shapes it. And maybe that's what your pain is doing too, not punishing you, but carving you, forming channels where deeper love can pass through. When you look back, you'll see it. Every detour was direction. Every heartbreak was excavation. Every silence was space being cleared for a truer sound. You don't need to fight the current anymore. You don't need to chase or grasp or beg. Just trust that where you are is not the end, it's the bend. The river is still moving, even when you can't see the ocean yet. So breathe, drop the comparisons. Forgive the versions of you that forgot how to flow. Stand by that inner water and whisper, I release the dam. I release the doubt. I remember the current that made me, and watch what happens next. Suddenly, you'll feel lighter. Your steps will find rhythm again. Your words will start carrying truth again. And that quiet ache you've been calling loneliness, it'll start turning into peace. Because the moment you stop resisting your own nature, life rushes in to meet you. Not to complete you, but to celebrate that you finally remembered you were never separate in the first place. Love was never something to earn. It was always the water you're made of. And once you learn to flow with it, not against it, you don't just find love, you become it. There comes a moment in every life when the chase collapses, when the running, the proving, the endless reaching stops. And in that stillness, something sacred happens. You finally meet yourself. See, the greatest discovery is not finding love out there. It's realizing it never left you. You were wrapped in it from the start, breathing it, bleeding it, but too distracted by the noise to notice its rhythm inside you. We spend years chasing reflections, relationships, approval, success, thinking they'll quiet the ache. But love isn't a finish line, it's the ground beneath your feet. It's been carrying you this whole time, and when that truth finally hits you, you stop begging for validation. You stop performing for belonging. You stop fighting the current of your own becoming. Because now you see, love was never a destination. It was the current itself. Look, surrender isn't weakness. It's not giving up. It's giving in. It's the courage to release control and trust the rhythm of what's real. It's saying, I don't have to force this anymore. I can finally breathe. The surrender to truth means letting go of the idea that you must be perfect to be loved. It means realizing that your cracks are not curses, they're entry points for light. The pain that once broke you is the same pressure that shaped you. And every person who left didn't subtract love. They revealed how much of it still lives within you. Real talk. It's terrifying at first. To stand in the open with no mask, no script, no strategy, to say, this is me, unpolished, unfiltered, unfinished. But that's where the power lies, because when you stop pretending, you stop fragmenting. And when you stop fragmenting, you finally feel whole. That's the divine rhythm of life. Not perfection, but presence. Not chasing, but choosing. Not performing, but being. And once you start living that way, everything shifts. People respond differently. Doors open without knocking. Peace replaces panic. because now you're aligned with what's true. And truth doesn't compete, it simply is. You stop needing to prove your worth. You stop needing to earn your rest. You stop waiting for someone to give you permission to exhale. Because you understand, love doesn't demand performance, it invites participation. It's not a contract, it's a current. Here's the thing: the world will still test you. You'll still face rejection, misunderstanding, loss. But now, those storms don't define you, they refine you. Because you've learned that peace isn't the absence of pain. It's the presence of purpose inside it. The surrender to truth is also the surrender to flow. You start letting life move through you without clinging. You stop hoarding moments out of fear they'll disappear. You learn to love without possession and to give without depletion. And in that rhythm, everything becomes enough. You start to see the divine design behind every detour. That heartbreak you thought destroyed you, it built your depth. That loneliness you cursed, it carved out space for peace to enter. That delay you resented, it was time rearranging itself to serve you. This is what happens when you stop fighting reality. You realize life was never against you. It was shaping you into the vessel you were meant to be. A vessel wide enough to hold joy, pain, and wisdom in the same breath. And maybe that's the ultimate form of love, not finding someone who never hurts you, but becoming someone who never stops growing, even through the hurt. Not demanding the world meet your expectations, but aligning yourself so deeply with truth that nothing external can take your peace. I know it sounds simple, but it's not easy, because surrender asks for trust, and trust is born in uncertainty. You can't script this part of the story. You can only live it, one honest moment at a time. The truth is, everything you thought you lost is still here, just in a different form. The love you gave, the lessons you lived, the hope you buried, they didn't vanish, they became you. Every scar, every prayer, every late night conversation with your own reflection, it all forged the soul you're standing in right now. So breathe. This moment, this very breath, is proof that you are still becoming. You don't need to rush anymore. You don't need to chase anymore. You are exactly where love needs you to be. Present, awake, aware. The surrender to truth is freedom. Freedom from the constant comparison. Freedom from the illusion that you must earn what's already yours. Freedom from fear disguised as ambition. And in that freedom, life feels different, quieter, fuller, realer. You start to laugh again, not because everything's perfect, but because you've remembered that perfection was never the goal. Wholeness was. And brother, wholeness is not something you find, it's something you allow. So let the walls fall, let the masks crack, let the stories you told yourself dissolve. You don't have to protect what was never in danger. You just have to let the truth breathe through you, because when you do, you'll notice it. That quiet power, that calm certainty, that unshakable knowing that love is not somewhere to arrive at. It's the space you live in when you stop running from yourself. And that's where the divine rhythm begins. In the silence after the struggle, in the peace that follows surrender, in the moment you whisper, "I'm done chasing, I'm ready to flow." And when you stand there, open, present, real, the universe leans in and says, "Finally." Not because you've become someone new, but because you've remembered who you were all along, you. Love in motion, truth in form, the river returning to itself. Every story begins and ends with love. Even the stories that pretend to be about success, power, or glory, if you look close enough, they all lead back to the same question: was I loved? Did I love well? And through every lesson we've walked together, the hunger, the conditioning, the exhaustion of pretending, the liberation of truth, they all whisper the same truth beneath the noise. That love was never something to chase. It was something to remember, because somewhere along the line, we forgot who we were. We started believing that love was a trophy, a validation, a mirror held up by others. But the deeper truth, love was inside us before the first applause, before the first heartbreak, before the first time someone told us we weren't enough. Take a breath, because this is the moment everything you've learned folds into one still point. You are not what you lost. You are not who left. You are not the approval you never received. You are love, walking, breathing, breaking, healing. You see, every pain you've carried, every time you gave your heart, and it wasn't returned, it was not wasted, it was training your soul to see deeper, to love cleaner, to stand taller. You can spend a lifetime trying to fill the void others left, or you can become the light that fills it yourself. That's what all this has been leading to. That's the liberation of the human heart. When you stop asking, who will love me? And start declaring, I will love regardless. The power is never in being loved by many. It's in loving purely, without fear. When you reach that place, when your heart beats without conditions, when you can look in the mirror and see someone worthy, even with scars, that's when love becomes truth. And truth doesn't beg. Truth doesn't chase. Truth simply is. That's when silence becomes peace. That's when solitude becomes strength. That's when every person you meet feels safer around you. Not because you gave them something, but because your presence stopped demanding anything. So here's the closing whisper of it all, the final echo before the lights fade. If you want to love deeply, learn to stand alone beautifully. If you want to be loved truly, stop negotiating your worth. If you want to feel peace, release the story that says you must earn it. Love begins when striving ends. And maybe that's what life was always trying to teach you. That the love you've been searching for was never missing. It was only waiting for you to be still enough to feel it. So walk with that truth. Carry it like quiet fire. Let it burn away the need to prove. And wherever you go, let your presence remind people of what love looks like when it finally remembers itself. Because every human being is searching for one thing, and now you've found it, you've become it. Love in motion. Love awake. Love unstoppable.